There's a new national champion in college basketball. Kansas knocking off UNC to claim its fourth title in school history. That was Monday night. Last night, like 12 hours ago, because the game started so freaking late. Nearly matching the amount of level 1 NCAA violations the program is under investigation for as well. The Kansas City Jayhawks, Mark Emmert's words, not mine, have the third best odds now in the country to win it all next year on the DK Sportsbook. That's tied with Kentucky and BFF's Duke and North Carolina, by the way. The only two teams with shorter odds. Samir, make your way over to the big board. Look how beautiful that graphic is that Howard made up. Careful, watch out for all the cords, dude. You're a little nervous this morning. It is good to see everybody here today. I am Emerson Lotzia. You are watching The Sweat right now, presented by DraftKings. I would like to bring in a couple other hoop heads here, though, to kind of get their thoughts on last night. We got some big Nick energy in the house. DraftKings contributor Nick Fryer, and we got Mr. Roto Wires, Nick Whalen in the house. I'm sorry, Fryer, that is a frightening background. That is Bukes, and it looks like a 12-year-old Garion Thorne.
I don't know. I thought they were professional-looking pictures. You know, I know they're doing the baseball segment today without me, so it's just wanted to make sure. It makes me feel like I'm with them today. Well,
it's absolutely what nightmares are made of. Fryer, though, I got a question for you. How'd Kansas win this thing, overcoming like the largest halftime deficit here for a national champion?
Yeah, I mean, look, we all love to see a good comeback, whether it's over a long haul of a season or in a short game. Although I would say that one of our coworkers, Julian Edlow, probably didn't love the way that it turned out, because I'm sad to see Kansas did not cover for him in the end, because they were -4 when he wrote up his article for DK Nation. So I was a little bit upset about that. Never like seeing him get a pick wrong. But in the end, I'm just, I would have liked seeing UNC win this in Coach K's last season. Kind of would have been a nice little like cherry on top, but at the same time, they still knocked him off. I'm never going to complain about UNC and Duke not winning.
All right, Waylon, from controversies to comebacks, I mean, this truly was the perfectly imperfect title run.
Yeah, it really was. And, Kansas, I think, has the type of roster that we've seen succeed year after year after year in the tournament, where you have a mix of kind of some underclassmen, some upperclassmen, some transfers and Remy Martin. That's kind of how you build the type of team that not necessarily sends a bunch of guys to the NBA, but succeeds at the college level. And, honestly, like 2 rounds into the tournament, I look back and like, why did I not have Kansas going all the way, at least to the national championship game? Like the path that ended up being laid out for them, really came perfectly. They played a 16 seed, a 9 seed, a 4 seed, a 10 seed, a 2 seed in Villanova without its second best player in Justin Moore. And then obviously a very good North Carolina team, but a North Carolina team that was still an 8 seed in the national title game. So things broke really well, I think, in Kansas's favor. Obviously didn't look like it was going their way at halftime, but man, tough to win a game when arguably your 3 best players in RJ Davis, Caleb Love, and Armando Bacot go 13 of 54 from the field in that game. I thought UNC panicked quite a bit in that second half when Kansas started making their run. They tried to get it all back, 1 possession at a time, and it came back to bite them.
Yeah, good for Bacot actually making it out there, though, with that ankle injury. Looked pretty good, just dominating the first opening minutes, really opening 20 minutes. But, yeah, UNC kind of just disappearing just a little bit. Tight game, but Kansas, poster child, no doubt, for the era of asterisks in college sports. Mighty kind of the NBA, though, to take off last night, guys, and let the college game kind of take center stage. Tonight, however, we got a juicy 12-game slate, so let's talk about it. A lot of playoff races to monitor, leading up to Sunday's regular season finale already. So which guard tonight, as we start our building block segment, has building block potential, Waylon?
Well, there are a few. When there's 24 teams in action, there's going to be a few directions to look. I find myself gravitating toward Kyrie Irving on this slate. He's expensive. He's at $10,600. He hasn't been quite as good as he looked as a part-time player. Maybe having like 6 days between games was actually beneficial to him, but gets a really good matchup against the Houston Rockets team that is 30th in defense, 29th in pace since the All-Star break. And it hasn't really mattered who the Nets have matched up against, because they're not that good of a team right now, other than Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. This is like a C-level supporting cast. So even when they're playing teams that maybe don't have quite as much top-end talent, they're still able to hang around. That's resulted in Kyrie Irving playing 40, 45 minutes even, on a near nightly basis since he became a full-time player. So for fantasy purposes, that's been fantastic. If you want to go a little bit cheaper, a couple other names I like: Darius Garland gets a good matchup against the Orlando Magic. Devin Booker at 9,300 against just a pitiful Los Angeles Lakers team. CJ McCollum, 8,700, goes up against a good matchup in the Kings. And then on the other side of that Houston-Brooklyn matchup, Jalen Green, 7,400, 4 straight 30-point games for the number 2 overall pick. He's been over 41 DraftKings points in 5 straight games. And the Brooklyn Nets are a bottom 10 defense since the All-Star break.
Lot of choices here, Fryer, in the guard department. Who's one that you are definitely going to build around?
You know what's funny is there's a lot of choices, but at the same time, Nick and I are in lockstep on this one that we both like Kyrie Irving. He's the one that jumps out. He's getting more minutes, and I understand full-time player not doing as well, but we're still seeing that volume. He's going up against a bad team, and now no Seth Curry tonight as well. You hate to see the Nets trying this whole rotating roster over the course of the season and see it not work out for them at all. Again, another thing that just breaks my heart today. I guess that's the theme. But you brought up Darius Garland, Nick, and to me, Karis LeVert is actually the guy though that I want to roster in that game. Get a little bit more savings, of course. When we're looking at the high price guys, I understand Garland being there, but LeVert, they still need to have guys scoring, and he's been stepping up a little bit of late. In the Cavs, we talk about teams needing to play for something. I know the Cavs are in a really bad spot. We thought they were going to be a good team in the postseason, and all these injuries have made it kind of tough. We'll see how they bounce back physically with Allen and Mobley, but for right now, they got to lean on LeVert, and they're still trying to fight to at least have that top spot in the play-in tournament.
Fryer, your dude Marcus Smart ruined Steph Curry.
Well, did I say Steph? I meant to say Seth Curry.
Yeah.
But yeah, he did. But I mean, it's the guy plays hard, and I don't think he should apologize for it. And anybody who wants to criticize for him, like you, Emerson,
whoa,
you need to look yourself in the mirror.
What are you talking about? I'm just pointing it out. I'm just pointing it out here. I know, and I can't believe this. You see this?
Very accusatory.
This is where I know he's done too many segments with Buchanan, Waylon, because now Fryer has become the bully on this program. So Waylon, I'll start with you here. Who was a forward worth building your lineups around tonight?
Yeah, I just feel like an innocent bystander here. If you want to start at the top, you got Giannis at 11,800. He's destroyed the Bulls in virtually all their matchups this season. Milwaukee has owned that, I guess, semi-rivalry in the Central Division. So worth paying up if you feel like it. But obviously with 24 teams in action, you have plenty of other options. Pascal Ciaco is somebody I found myself rostering a ton this season. He has been awesome since coming back from that early season injury. He's at 9,400 going up against an Atlanta Hawks team that is 26th in defense since the All-Star break. They're still finding ways to hang around. They're still finding ways to win games, but that defense has not been good. And if you want to save a little bit more money, Alperen Sengun finally getting the minutes that season-long fantasy players have been clamoring for virtually all season. Foul trouble is an issue with him. It's never a guarantee that he's going to play 35 minutes. Turnovers are an issue when it comes to his final DraftKings point tally. But, I mean, he is a fantasy point per minute machine when he's out there. Christian Wood's done for the season. Sengun has 43, 28, and 40 DraftKings points over his last 3 games, respectively.
All right, Fryer, what are you doing in the forward department, dude?
I really like that Sengun call from Nick, but I also like Brandon Ingram tonight at 8K going up against the Kings. I know from a volume standpoint, it's gone down a slight bit since he returned from his injury, but he's still getting like 11 to 17 shots per game, still getting to the free throw line a ton. But while he's gotten some less shots too, and less assists as well, we've seen the rebounds numbers tick up a little bit for him as late as well. And of course, the Kings, anybody playing the Kings, you don't need me to sell you on them that much. I mean, 27th in defensive rating, they're 8th in pace. And again, I know the Pelicans, they're pretty kind of cemented where they are in the postseason in terms they're going to be in the play-in tournament. They're going to be one of the lower 2 teams. But if they want to secure a home court advantage, they need to win tonight in this game because the Spurs are, of course, right on their heels.
All right, Fryer, as for center, I mean, we got like 3 of the best on this slate tonight. Jokic, Embiid, I mean, Cat's in there. Are you going to be spending up here at this position?
Yeah, so I do have some saving options, but I can't go against Nicole Yokoch in this one tonight. He's coming off of 4 consecutive 70-point DK fantasy point games, which I know is like kind of run of the mill for him. And of course, at this price tag, it's not like you're getting like 10 times value from him when he goes and does something like that. That said, this is a team that he's done well against, the Spurs. They don't do well against opposing bigs. So I just look at it and say, well, in the Nuggets too, they do have something to play for because they are, kind of in a comfortable spot outside of the play-in tournament. But again, the Timberwolves are right there, 2 spots down, not far behind them. So this isn't like a game that they can kind of just coast in. While it should be an easy win for the Nuggets in some capacity, the Spurs are still fighting too, as much as, the Lakers are pretty much done. But then if you want to look for some savings, I think Andre Drummond at at 6.8K. Of course, we're hammering this Nets, the Rockets game quite a bit. I think, that's a decent one. I would like him more if he's a little bit cheaper, but still, I think he can return 5 times value in this one tonight. He's been solid of late. And then Kevin Love at 5.7K going up against the Magic, to another team that's brutal against bigs. And again, Cavs hurting numbers-wise.
All right, Waylon, how expensive are you looking to go here at center?
Well, first of all, I like the Kevin Love call. If you watched any of these recent Cavs games without their two, big men in Allen and Mobley, it's been pretty comical how they're, Lauri Markkanen is basically playing the 5. Kevin Love has to play the 5 at times, but it's resulted in a nice minutes jump for Kevin Love. So that's a good call and a good matchup. Center is a place where I think I can save a little bit of money tonight. You can even get Bam Adebayo, who I always love rostering at 7,900. Very good price for him. One of the best matchups in the league for big men going up against the Hornets. It's a bad defense, big time pace up game for Miami, which is one of the slowest pace teams in the league. Charlotte top 3 in pace since the All-Star break. If you want to go even cheaper, and I can't believe that this guy's actually priced where he is. He's up at 6,800 now. Isaiah Roby. We get a rematch of the Isaiah Roby Drew Eubanks showdown from I think this time last week. Roby had 55 DraftKings points in that game. I mean, that's an anomaly for him, obviously, but he's still playing a ton of minutes for a team that seemingly has like 7 guys available at this point. He's been over 30 minutes in 5 of his last 6. The production's been solid, not great, but goes up against one of the best matchups, if not the singular best matchup in the league right now in this depleted Portland Trailblazers outfit.
Guys, we are running tight on time, so Nick and Nick, I will thank you now for your service this morning. From a regular season winding down to one just getting started, we will discuss opening day salaries with our baseball panel right after this quick break. Two more sleeps until we're building regular season baseball lineups on DraftKings once again. Nature is healing until the next wave. With 18 of 30 MLB teams set to open the year on Thursday, some meaty salaries to choose from, too, and three dudes here to do said choosing. DraftKings contributors Gary and Thorne, Steve Buchanan, RotoWire's Eric Halterman. We are price checking, breaking down players in each price range for the opening day DFS slate on DraftKings. So we're looking at the 7-game main slate, so no Sox, Yankees, or Brewers, Cubs players in this conversation. The beautiful and beaming Bukes. You're batting leadoff, my friend. Who's an infielder you like north of $4,500?
Yeah, it's actually kind of interesting. There wasn't a ton of options that I was like, oh, I definitely need to get this guy in. But Pete Alonso at 4,800 really kind of Garen's very upset about that. He really kind of stuck out at 4,800 going up against Patrick Corbin in Washington. If you're the Nationals and your top ace, your top guy is Patrick Corbin, things aren't going to go well. It's not going to be a good season. Let me tell you that right away. But against righties, Patrick Corbin was absolutely abysmal. A 1.9 home run per 9 inning, 4.61 expected FIP, and a 4.01 WOBA against them. And then you look at what Alonso did against hitters with at least 150 plate appearances against lefties last season. His 325 isolated power was the 5th highest in the league. He absolutely smashes in these type of matchups, and against somebody like Patrick Corbin, who loves giving souvenirs to the fans with those baseballs flying out of the park, Lonzo's a good guy to use for opening day.
Presents for the people. Gary, and why are you so upset about Steve's choice? Relax, man.
I just figured this would probably happen where literally the first baseball segment of the season, the first question, Steve and I have the same answer. So I had to listen really closely. Okay. So I knew which stats not to repeat.
Good.
Yeah, this is a fantastic matchup for Pete Alonso, who really should have just been better against left-handed pitching last season. I mean, a guy who had a BABIP under 220 within the split. Like, if you look at his expected numbers, he had a 393 expected WOBA against Southpaws last season. And Patrick Corbin, we don't even have to get into, like, advanced, complex, cool numbers when it comes to Patrick Corbin and his lack of success against right-handed bats last season. He gave up 35 home runs to right-handed batters. Patrick Corbin should not be starting on opening day. It is a desperate team in a desperate spot. I think Alonso under 5K is a great value play, even at this price.
All right, Eric, hook me up with an infielder you like north of $4,500.
Yeah, let's just make it a Mets stack. I think picking on Patrick Corbin is exactly what you want to do here. I love the Alonso pick, but I'll go with Francisco Lindor at 4,600 to pair with him. He had a bad year last year, but it wasn't quite as bad as it looked, I think, by his surface level numbers. He was hurt by a 248 batting average on balls in play. I expect that to come up closer to 300 this year. If you look at some of his StatCast expected stats, he hit 230, but his expected batting average was 253, which again would still be a down year for Lindor, but we're not talking nearly as bad as what actually happened. His slugging percentage was similarly about 40 points below the expected numbers per StatCast there. He did strike out more than ever before, but still just 18.3% of the time, and that came with a career-high 11.1% walk rate. So I'm on Lindor for at least a modest bounce back. I think if all he does is see his numbers return to the expected numbers, it's still not necessarily the player the Mets thought they were getting, but it's still a perfectly fine player for shortstop at this kind of price range against a pitcher as shaky as Corbin.
All right, Gary, and who are you on in the outfield? Give me a guy north of $4,500.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Dylan Carlson. And again, this is just a spot where you pick on another bad pitcher. You've got JT Brubaker pitching for the Pirates. Someone who had, I mean, really for the entirety of the season struggled with the long ball, but specifically his final 10 starts of 2021. This is someone who was just handing out home runs, specifically to left-handed batters. A 698 slugging percentage and 442 WOBA to left-handed batters his final 10 starts of the season. Generally speaking, Carlson is a better play when the Cardinals are facing a southpaw. He's a better right-handed batter than a left-handed batter throughout his career. But he just hits well in St. Louis, generally speaking. He had a massive second half of the season, and it seems like he's going to hit leadoff for the Cardinals this year. So I think at 4,800, he's just a really, really nice play.
Steve, did I hear you giggling in agreement?
It's absolutely incredible. You know, Gary and I aren't even in the same country, and somehow our telekinetic powers still make it across the border, and we're always on the same guys. If you want a good segment where you're getting a plethora of players, do not put Gary and I together, because it's not going to happen. I had Dylan Carlson, and I'm like, no one's going to go on Dylan Carlson. I forgot that Gary was on this segment, so of course he's going to have Dylan Carlson. Who do you got for the rest of the segment, Gary? You might as well go through it now.
No, do not do that.
I feel like the next player is going to
that.
be the same too, if we're being honest.
But, Carlson, and Gary brought up all the points that basically I was going to bring here. He's not your typical leadoff guy, but, he had a really nice 9.2 walk percentage last year. He's not going to be someone that's going to steal you any bags, but to be fair, not a lot of guys are going to in Major League Baseball to begin with anyways, but he's going to get on base, and then Brubaker has just been absolutely atrocious in these spots, especially on the road, and Carlson hits well at home. So everything kind of aligns here for Carlson, and he's going to be batting leadoff too. That's just even better. That's just the cherry on top there, so I think he's one of the best outfield options in a position that, quite frankly, is pretty thin above that range as well. A lot of injuries at the top there, so I think Carlson's your guy.
All right, Eric, help me out here.
Let's just go with Juan Soto at 5,000. I think he's priced as if Max Scherzer is pitching. I don't think he'd be the 7th most expensive outfielder on a slate this small. If it was known at the time the prices were set that Scherzer was battling a hamstring injury and is actually not going to pitch until Friday, it looks like it's going to be Tyler Mcgill going on opening day because the Mets are wanting to keep the rest of their guys on schedule. Mcgill is perfectly fine. Actually, I do kind of like Mcgill, but he's, an overqualified 5th starter pitching on opening day. Maybe he'd be a 4 for many other teams. He wouldn't be a 1. And when you're talking about a guy as good as Juan Soto, who will get the platoon advantage against him and isn't the most expensive outfielder, I think he's a great play here. My favorite thing about Soto's last season was when he said the home run derby was going to fix his swing, and then it did. In the second half, he hit 18 homers versus just 11 in the first half. And then, of course, the time after the All-Star break is shorter than the time before it. He had a 199 WRC plus after the break, and he walked more than twice as often as he struck out. So he's coming off one of the more ridiculous half seasons we've seen. I think he'd be the most expensive outfielder if it was known that Mcgill was the guy going against him. So I think at 5,000, he's actually a great value.
All right, Eric, who are you looking at for some value here? Dude swinging the wood.
Well, if I get to go first here, that means I get to talk about Julio Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Unless you're both going to talk about Julio Rodriguez, in which case I'll pivot and go with Stephen Kwan to let somebody else talk about Julio Rodriguez. Not nearly as exciting a prospect as Julio, but if Stephen Kwan is starting, he's at just $2,000. He'll get to go against Zach Greinke, who at this stage of his career, not exactly an intimidating opening day guy, doesn't really strike guys out anymore. If Kwan plays, which I think he will, the Guardians aren't exactly famous for spending money or starting their guys' service time clocks or anything like that. So if he's allowed to play almost every day, which I think he's going to, he's going to rack up a ton of hits. He's an elite contact hitter. He's a career 9.2% strikeout rate in the minor leagues, lower than his walk rate. A 328 hitter in the minors. He's got kind of that like Luis Arias, Nick Madrigal type profile where he legitimately could win a batting title already, but you're expecting probably single digit homers. He has more of a shot at 10 homers than the other guys who were probably going to get about 2. But he, I think, is already one of the best contact hitters in the league, even though he hasn't played at all. So if everybody in the world is going to Julio Rodriguez, who I would still include as well, I think Kwan is another way to get some value in your outfield.
All right, Steven, hook me up with some value, dude.
Yeah, of course, everybody's going to go to Julio Rodriguez. I'll leave that for Garen, because believe me, you are going to hear plenty of Mariners talk from me throughout the season.
Yeah,
We're not
baby.
even at opening day yet, so I'll save that for later. Let's talk about the absurd pricing for Bobby Witt Jr., who is coming up here. He is that rare mix of speed and power that you don't really get in Major League Baseball anymore. This is somebody who only played in the minors for 2 years, 2019, 2021, because there was no minor leagues in 2020, through AA and AAA. Nearly identical stat lines. 16 and 17 home runs in 61 and 62 games. He did cut his K percentage down from AA to AAA, which is nice. Wasn't a big drop, or from 24% to 22.5%. Rather than see go down rather than going up. At third base, 2,300. It's a steal. You are never going to get Bobby Witt Jr. this low. Maybe you will on Friday because it hasn't caught up yet. But believe me, by next week, you're not going to be getting him at 2,300. So now let's hear Gary talk about Julio Rodriguez.
Okay, Gare Bear, take it away in 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really much that needs to be said. This is someone
Right.
who posted a 1.3 OPS in the spring. He's one of the top prospects in all of baseball. He's probably going to be hitting in the middle of this Mariners lineup. I mean, these are kind of the Kelnick rules. We did this last year, and it took a really long time for Kelnick's price to go up, although he struggled pretty immensely. I don't think Julio Rodriguez is going to have that problem. But yeah, all of these top prospects who are just underpriced for the first week, you have to keep an eye on. If you do want to go in another direction and like the complete opposite direction and just start taking some like boring veteran players who are probably going to be hitting in the middle of their respective teams' lineups, I do like Luke Voigt at 3,500 going up against Madison Bumgarner. I also like Corey Dickerson for the Cardinals, probably going to hit 5th or 6th. We just talked about how much Brubaker struggles against left-handed bats. I think Dickerson could be a sneaky play at 3,200.
All right, guys, opening day also brings some terrific ace versus ace pitching matchups. This is the last question. Doesn't matter the price tag. Just hook me up with your favorite pitcher for opening day, Garion.
Well, I think Steve and I'll have a similar answer on this one.
Oh.
Going back to last season. Look, the important thing to remember here is just, especially with the shortened spring training, you're probably in a more advantageous situation to pay down at pitcher because someone like Shane Bieber, who I like and is underpriced for who Shane Bieber is, only faced 15 batters in his last spring start. So I don't know how seriously you can expect him to pitch like even past the 5th inning. So I think paying down anyway is probably the way to go. And I don't know what Robbie Ray did to the algorithm, but Robbie Ray is like $1,000 cheaper than like Joe Ryan, than Brubaker. It doesn't make any sense. Robbie Ray just won the American League Cy Young. Robbie Ray is one of the best strikeout pitchers in all of baseball. I mean, Robbie Ray is going to be the chalk. Don't get me wrong, but find a way to differentiate yourself with your SP2 because Robbie Ray should be your SP1.
Steven.
Yeah, it's that Cy Young discount you get on opening day. That's exactly what happened to the algorithm. Just to go a little bit off the, different from Garion, obviously Robbie Ray's your guy. Max Fried going up against the Reds. The Reds are not going to be a strong team. I could put a period after that statement, but they're not going to be a strong team, especially against lefties. The highest guy on that roster right now with isolated power was Aristides Aquino. He's the 5th guy in their outfield depth chart at this point, okay? This team is not going to be good against lefties. A lot of strikeouts going to be had against this lineup too as well. Of players with at least 50 plate appearances last season, 6 of them who are expected to be in the lineup have a K percentage of 23% or higher against lefties. Max Fried should be your SP2 after your SP1 slot is done by Robbie Ray, who we won at 80-1 with the Cy Young last year.
All right, Eric, bring us home.
I mean, again, absolutely the obvious choice here is Ray. I actually had to double check to make sure there wasn't another Robbie Ray in baseball that this was accidentally pulling from or something like that. It does not make any sense to me that he'd be at 6,300. Other options, Shane Bieber at 8,300, I think is completely fine, even though, as Gary had mentioned, maybe he doesn't go super deep, but maybe nobody goes super deep. And on a per batter basis, there aren't many guys better than Bieber. And the one other guy I think is Tyler Mcgill, who's at, 7,500, is it? I did mention that he's not necessarily opening day caliber, but if you don't go with Juan Soto, who I recommended earlier, I think Mcgill is a completely fine pitcher. 26% strikeout rate against just a 7% walk rate last season, I think means he's going to do a lot better than his 4.52 ERA this year. The Nationals have a fine lineup, I guess, now that Nelson Cruz is there next to Juan Soto, but it's nothing particularly scary. So I think in the middle tier, he'd be a guy I look at if I don't go with Soto myself.
All right, dudes. Adios. We still got some best bets to talk about with the Masters, plus Tiger Woods making some comments today. Big comments that may impact your decision to bet him this week at Augusta National. Plus, we're going to put a fantasy spin on some NFL headlines right after we talk some sticky puck. Yo, the Atlantic Division down the stretch is going to be silly. So last night you got the Bruins knocking off Columbus here, and that was in overtime. And then Paul Bruno's Maple Leafs put on a beatdown in Tampa. And we can also show you the Eastern Conference as a whole. I'm not sure if we have that graphic or not, but spoiler alert, we do. Oh, God. I love you guys in the back. The Hurricanes, Rangers, and Penguins holding it down atop the Metro. And all three, by the way, in that division in action tonight. Senior fantasy editor at NHL.com and host of the NHL Fantasy on Ice podcast. So Pete Jensen's here. The RotoWire riveting duo, Paul Bruno and AJ Scholes, are also here to help you guys and gals build some money-making lineups for tonight. Paul, right now, you got to tell me, which team do you see falling to a wild card spot at the end of the regular season between Toronto, Boston, and the Lightning?
I'm going to say it's going to be the Boston Bruins. And you know what? You can make a case for all three of them. It's going to be that close, going to be down to a coin flip. But the way the Leafs are rolling right now, I think they're a cinch to be no worse than third in this division. And Tampa, they're the team that's reeling of all three of them right now, if you ask me. So I'm going to pick Boston, though, on talent.
Okay. Pete, Bruins, 17-3-1 in their last 21 games, dude. But last night's win may have come at a steep price there. Trent Frederick and leading scorer David Pastrnak banged up now.
Yeah, it's a tough situation because the Bruins have been rolling three strong lines, really impressive fashion over the past couple of months. Of course, DeBrusk popped off again. He's been outstanding in DFS and season long as a association of the top line with Bergeron and Marchand. And then, yeah, to kind of answer the question that you brought up before about which team I think would drop off, I love what I've seen from the Bruins, and I love what I've seen from the Maple Leafs. So right now, the odd team out might be the Tampa Bay Lightning, two-time defending champs. Imagine them being a wild card and maybe go into the other bracket because it looks like the President's Trophy or maybe the Eastern Conference crown in the regular season will probably go to the Florida Panthers. So the Lightning quietly might have a tough time defending their titles this year because they don't have anywhere near the scoring depth as they've had in previous years.
Yeah, Frederick and Pastrnak, by the way, officially out tonight, according to head coach Bruce Cassidy. And you're going to have Jeremy Swayman starting between the Pites. But, AJ, Boston and Detroit tonight, Toronto and Florida. Who needs a win more?
I mean, like Paul said, like they both need wins. It's going to be so tight. Imagine being Carolina right now. Like, you're going to come out of the meat grinder that is the Metropolitan, potentially as the first team. Oh, and by the way, here's your reward, the Tampa Bay Lightning in the first round. That just would not seem fair. I'm not counting out the Lightning yet, and I'm not saying either of these guys are either. It's going to be a dogfight here to the end. But I agree with Paul. I think Boston probably is the most likely of those teams to end up in the wild card spot. So maybe it's them that need to win the most tonight. It'll give them a good opportunity. They've got Detroit, a little weaker opposition, while obviously Toronto is going up against Florida. So it could be a good opportunity to catch Toronto rather on points here for second.
Okay, let's go ahead and let's fast forward to tonight here, guys. Pete, I'll start with you. Who's your favorite DFS play at center?
I'm just so impressed by the season that Tage Thompson is having for the Buffalo Sabres. He's at 30-plus goals. He's having a career year across the board. He was the guy that came over in that Ryan O'Reilly trade that looked horrible after the first year when St. Louis won the Cup. But now it looks like Buffalo has their number one center of the present and the future. And he plays with Jeff Skinner. And I like what they've done recently. They have Alex Tuch drop down and playing with Casey Middlestad on the second line. And Middlestad has been really productive when healthy this season. So, yeah, I kind of like that Buffalo play down the stretch. I know it's a tough opponent in Carolina, but you look at the home splits for Thompson, 35 points in 35 home games. I mean, this guy is honestly playing at an elite level, and he's sustained it all year long.
All right, Paul, where are you going?
You know what? It's serve and volley time between Draisaitl and Matthews. Tonight, I think Draisaitl gets a chance to return serve after Matthews had last night. Great matchup for him. He's got 47 shots on goal in his last 10 games, 11 goals in that stretch too. So I think he's going to add to his totals. But the guy that I'm watching in the same game is Ryan Nugent Hopkins. Been a big part of the Oilers' recent win streaks. They've been split up by an injury absence on his part. So I credit him being a big part of Edmonton's success when he's been in the lineup for the last 2 months. And it should be a points night for Edmonton as they face a poor club in San Jose. And the cost for Brian Nugent Hopkins only $5,000. That's one of the best values on the board. I love Pete's call on Tage Thompson, and I'm right there alongside him. And then one final name I'll throw out is Mika Zibanejad, $7,100 at the New Jersey Devils, 10 points in his last 10 games. The Rangers have lost 2 straight in their division. I don't think they're going to make it 3 in a row, and Zibanejad's going to be a big part of the rebound tonight.
All right, AJ, talk to me about your guy at center.
Well, I'm going to be the homer here. I'm going to go to Sidney Crosby here. Mostly because, one, he's not the top of the price range. 2, ownership should be relatively low when you consider they're going up against the Avs. I think that'll depress the value of the Penguins. But look, Crosby has just been unstoppably consistent. He's got points, at least a point, in 17 of his last 19 contests. That includes the other night when they played Colorado and he got a goal. Like, there's just too much consistency here at a guy that's $7,200. So yeah, you're still getting one of the top players in the league. It's certainly not a value play, but you're not having to pay up quite as high as a Matthews or a Draisaitl, and it leaves you a little bit more flexibility on the rest of your roster build.
All right, cool. Let's go to the wings and things department. Paul?
Mitch Marner, $7,100. That's an insult to a guy who's been the NHL's leading scorer over the last 6 weeks. He looks like he's having a lot of fun out there, playing a different game than almost everybody else on the ice. Across the ice tonight, though, Jonathan Huberdeau doing much the same thing with 14 points in his last 10 games played, costing $6,800. So a couple of good values on a couple of guys that are way up there in the top 10 scorers on the year. Cheaper than both, though, I like Artemi Panarin's matchup at New Jersey, similar to Zibanejad. He's been a top 10 points guy in this league over the last 2 seasons, finally pushing for that target again this year with 11 points in his last 10 games, 82 and 65 on the year. He costs only $6,500 somehow tonight.
AJ, your favorite wing?
I hate to do this, guys, but I have to agree with Paul here. Marner has just been so good. And again, that price tag, when you compare it, 15 points in his last 6 contests, all multi-point efforts. 7,100 is too low here. And again, maybe based on matchup, you think about fading the Leafs tonight, and some other people might. But Marner just had 3 points against the Lightning. And I know we talked about the Lightning reeling a little bit here, but they're still one of the best teams in the league. So I'm not scared off by the fact that they're going up against the Panthers. I think Marner was just going to continue to produce every night down the stretch here. They don't have to rely on the offense quite as much as they have been now that Jack Campbell's back. That doesn't mean they're going to stop putting in goals, and Mitch Marner is going to be a key to that.
Okay, Pete.
So I'm going cheaper here. I'm going with Matthew Joseph from the Ottawa Senators. You could say, hey, what he did over the past 2 games is flash in the pan, maybe. 7 points, 9 shots in his past 2 games. He played for the Lightning for years. We've never seen anything like this from him. But I liked how he shared some common ice time at different points in that game with Josh Norris, who had a hat trick, and also Brady Tkachuk. So maybe look for him to earn himself an elevated role. This is a guy that was just traded a couple of weeks ago and is finding a home on a non-contender, but a bigger offensive role. So, bargain price, $2,500. You got to love that. Maybe some breakout potential down the stretch of the season. And I also really like the price point for Matt Zuccarello for the Minnesota Wild with that exposure to Kirill Kaprizov, who just broke the Wild point record for a single season. Zuccarello is only $5,200, so you got to slot him in as well.
All right, need you guys to be very quick here on Blue Line. Paul, I'll start with you. Is this a pay-up spot, or are you going to save?
No way. There's 3 name recognition power play quarterback types that are sub 5,000 tonight. That's a shocker. And the most shocking of all, Morgan Riley, 6th in the league in points by a defenseman all season long. 12 points in his last 10 games, costing $4,900. Then you got Hampus Lindholm, yet to really make his mark in Boston, but only $3,900 against the woeful Wings. And finally, Jared Spurgeon running PP1 for Minnesota. They face Nashville tonight. They've been leaking goals. The Preds have. Meanwhile, Minnesota's 9-0-1 their last 10. Spurgeon will cost only $3,800 this season.
AJ, take it away.
I'm going to go back to the Penguins here. Mike Matheson is just $3K tonight. He's generated 3 goals and 3 assists since returning from injury. But perhaps most importantly, over that, I believe it's an 11-game stretch, He's got 26 shots, 19 blocks, so it's a really good floor here as well, even if he doesn't get a point at 3K. But you add in the fact he's the quarterback for the number 2 power play unit. I like his chances of grabbing a point here.
All right, Pete, bring us home.
So I got Tyson Barry going up against the Sharks. Barry's one of the hottest scoring defensemen in the league, brings exposure to McDavid and Draisaitl on power play 1, so ride the hot hand there. And then keep an eye out for Bowen Byram. He was just recalled from Colorado of the AHL. This is the second best rookie defenseman this season when healthy in points per game behind Mo Seider. So hopefully he returns on Tuesday, but certainly a player to keep an eye on that could give the Avs another layer in their pursuit of the Stanley Cup this year.
All right, thank you so much, gentlemen. Appreciate you guys. We need to talk Masters bets, how to approach putting some money on Tiger right after some quick NFL stuff. All right, we're going to get right to it. We have a two-man NFL panel here. DraftKings contributors Jeff Ulrich and Pierce J. Dietrich. We're going to put a DFS or sportsbook spin here on some of the latest NFL storylines. Like over the weekend, we'll start here in our backyard. The Patriots acquiring wide receiver Devontae Parker from the Dolphins, a 2023 third-round pick for a 2023 third-round pick. Injuries, we know this, dudes. They've slowed him down. But he feels like a guy that has, an upside, had that breakout season, I think, a couple of years ago. Could he be a good DFS option on the Pats, Pierce?
Yeah, he'll be awesome if he's healthy. If he's got the size and the speed. I mean, we know he has the size. Does he still have the speed? If he does, it's going to be great for the Patriots. Last year, we saw defenses only leave one safety back because the Patriots didn't have anyone to stretch the field. That hurt the run attack for New England. So we could see the run attack also benefit. And then also, Mac Jones faced the second most amount of extra pass rushers. Teams were able to bring more people because the Patriots didn't have a receiving threat. So I think all around the Patriots offense, you're going to see an increase.
All right, Jeff, we're talking about a 29-year-old wide receiver who's played 16 games, had 1,000 yards just once in a 7-year career.
I don't think he's ever played 16 games, actually. 7 years in the league, that's how long Devontae Parker has been in the league. Does it feel like 7 years? No, because you never see Devontae Parker on the field. This dude is living off one decent year where he had 1,200 yards. I like this move for Miami. So, Parker, he's getting up there in age. He's got a bigger contract. He's had that 1 year where he averaged over 15 yards per reception. The last 2 years, it's dipped. It's been under 13 yards per reception. Can he rebound? Maybe. But, I mean, this is a player who there's really no confidence. I mean, what are we still waiting? We're still calling for a breakout from Devontae Parker 8 years into his career. No, I don't like this move at all. I think it's reeks of desperation for the New England Patriots.
16 games in 2019. That was his best season. 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns there, Jeff. So, yeah, just doing my homework.
Pretty sure he didn't finish all 16.
Just trying to, just saying he played in 16 games. That's all. I'm just looking at the stats. Argue with the internet if you feel like it. Anywho, still some other big name wide receivers out there. Who we got? OBJ, Jarvis Landry, Julio Jones. I guess, Jeff, I'll start with you. What is the fantasy value of some of these guys? I'm sure it depends a lot on where they end up, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, definitely, obviously, if they're going to go into a secondary role, if someone's signing with the Chiefs or something, they're obviously going to be potentially not like the main in the feature role. But, if say, Jarvis Landry lands in Green Bay, I mean, there's just a bundle of targets up for grabs there right now. And I think Jarvis Landry has the most upside of these three players. Look, Odell Beckham, Pierce is going to come on here and tell me I'm crazy, but he still has some juice left in his career, but he's coming off an ACL. So what can we really expect? We can't have high expectations. Jarvis Landry has always been a great route runner. He's always been a guy who's, been able to work off a top wide receiver. And there's places for him to go potentially where he could still be very fantasy useful. Indianapolis is another spot working off Michael Pittman, who's turning into a bit of a beast downfield. So I think Jarvis Landry easily has the most fantasy potential just because he's been a guy who can rack up those targets. He's very, very savvy at getting open. And I still think that, there's a couple good years left for him. So Julio Jones, unfortunately, the old Julio looks like he's still in there somewhere, but his body just isn't letting him out anymore. So Jarvis Landry is the guy you should be still semi-bullish on of these three.
All right, do you agree with that, Pierce?
Yeah, how does Beckham still have juice? And he got injured barely a month ago.
Well, he was almost
Parker,
the fantasy MVP. He was almost the MVP of the Super Bowl, Pierce. But okay, sure.
He was almost MVP after playing two series. Come on.
Yeah, that's how good he was. Exactly. Thanks for making my point for me.
Yeah, all right. So Jeff is right that Jarvis Landry is the guy that we should be considering. I think he'll be fine, even if he ends up on a garbage team because he chases a paycheck because Christian Kirk got a bunch of money, so Landry wants a bunch of money. If he goes to a garbage team, then he'll get garbage points. And I think he still could have a potent role in an offense. If he takes the pay cut and goes to the Packers, that would be great. I don't think he's going to take that much of a discount. I think it's likely. It looks like he might go back to the Browns at a discounted rate and still be able to put up decent numbers in that offense. And then there's also the chance that he goes to Arizona. They need another receiver at the moment. That could be very interesting. It just depends. Does he want a trophy or does he want the money? You can't have your cake and eat it too.
All right, guys, we do have breaking news here that Blake Bortles has asked for and will be granted his release from the New Orleans Saints. So we will bring you the latest as that story develops, which it sounds like that story.
New Orleans Saints or the New Orleans Breakers? Is he
hey,
in the USFL now?
Hey, that is a great transition. Like, what a segue there, Jeff, because how soon until you guys become USFL experts here? The season starts next week, and you got the Michigan Panthers with Coach Jeff Fisher. I don't know how many games they play in this league, but they're going to end up 500. I can guarantee you that. They're the favorites to win it all at plus 400, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, it's an instant fade. I mean, first of all, if Jeff Fisher is the head coach, it's like you said, they're going to go 500 or worse, and they're also the favorites, so we can cross that off. I will tell you something right now. Kyle Slaughter is the best quarterback in this league. Kyle Slaughter is going to be the quarterback for the New Orleans Breakers. This is a guy who's he's 6'5". He's well over 200 pounds. He's just looked the part when he's played in preseason. He's had 8 preseason starts in the NFL from 2018 to 2019, a quarterback rating of 120 or better in 6 of those starts. He's a very good quarterback, and I just don't think that Kyle Slaughter ever really got a real chance in the NFL. The New Orleans Breakers at plus 500, they're going to be my team right off the bat, I'm telling you, because they made the smart move of getting Kyle Slaughter. Also, look out for the Pittsburgh Maulers, though. Kyle Lauletta can play a little bit. They got a local guy for the head coach there. I really like that story. So I'm looking at a couple teams, but right now it's the New Orleans Breakers because I think they have the best quarterback, and it may not even be, it may be by a wide margin.
Yeah, Pierce, maybe Bortles decides to kind of stay in the market.
There's actually some pretty good quarterbacks in the USFL. I don't even know if he can get a backup gig there.
Whoa!
And speaking of the Breakers, they have some solid receivers there, but the team to look out for is the Philadelphia Stars. Bart Andrus is basically a lifelong minor league football coach, World League, UFL, NAIA, you name it, he has done it. The Spring League. Now, he won the Spring League championship recently, and guess what? He brought basically his entire team to Philadelphia. Brian Scott was his starting quarterback there, was the MVP twice. They brought in all the receivers. They brought in the running backs. They brought in the same linemen. So basically, they have an advantage over the rest of the competition who have, 2 weeks to prep for this game. And, they're already not very good defenses to begin with. And so you got a guy who people called him the D3 Aaron Rodgers. The knock against him is he doesn't have the arm. You're not going to need the arm in the USFL. If you can make smart decisions against these defenses that haven't practiced very much, then Brian Scott's going to tear apart these offenses. Philadelphia Stars are the team to beat.
All right, Pierce, toodaloo. We do not need your help with Masters odds today because Reed T. Fowler has decided to show up for work. He is now joining Jeff.
I mean, what the hell are we doing here?
What?
What are we doing?
What?
We're talking about baseball, and there's 1,000 games to go for baseball in the second block. I'm going to text TG here.
No.
We're at the Masters, and Tiger just announced that he's playing in the Masters. And we're talking about the USFL. Give me a break. Good Lord.
Kyle Slaughter deserves airtime, Fowler. Okay?
Listen.
Yeah, D3 Aaron Rodgers.
Hey,
It's
Fowler.
Like Louis Oosthuizen winning the Masters. Who cares?
Hey, real talk. I mentioned it to producer Drew yesterday. I go, hey, maybe we move the Masters up to like the second block of the show, and maybe we bump down, World Cup. That's not until November. He literally got mad at me. He goes, okay, thanks for the input.
I mean,
said,
they're giving away MLB TV subscriptions if you have T-Mobile for free.
So,
I mean, that's all.
Dude, so Tiger Woods, you referenced it there for a second, Reed. Says, I feel like I'm going to play. He was holding court with the media like moments ago. Says he's going to make his final decision after playing 9 holes tomorrow. Says, right now, I feel like I'm going to play. A reporter asked him, do you think you can win the Masters this week? And his response was, I do. And Jeff yesterday, Reed, Jeff said that he liked the idea for Tiger to miss the cut. Maybe the bet there, which at the time was minus 115, but now to miss the cut, it's minus 140 on the DK Sportsbook. To make the cut, plus 105. Like, Reed, would you be looking to bet him, maybe besides like winning this thing overall or like a top 5? Like, would you go to a make or miss, or is there another bet you like with him?
I mean, it's fine to stay with the make or miss. It's pretty binary, right? I mean, it's fairly simple for a not so simple. Look, we have no idea what he's going to be like. All the things that we can project is what he did in 2019, what he did back in 17, and all the injuries that he's come back from and he's played well at. So I do like the fact that the positive EV bet is for him to miss the cut. It is. Like, I hate saying it, but that's it. 13 months removed from that accident, you got to think that it's just not necessarily there. But we're not going to project. Like, Tiger's not going to come out and say, yeah, I'm going to come here and I'm going to finish 17th. Like, he's going to come out here and he's going to say, I'm going to win. And that's going to prop up everyone's market and the sentiment on Tiger. And it makes a lot of sense, right, to fade that. But it's Tiger Woods. He can defy all odds. I'm just going to stay away and just enjoy it. And if you want to bet Tiger outright, there's insurance on DK Sportsbook that if he does withdraw in the tournament, that you could get your money back if you opt into that insurance. So there's that as well.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So Tiger Woods now plus 3,500, Jeff, to be the outright winner here. Like a couple days ago, DraftKings Sportsbook tweeted out, he's got the most money on him to win this thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not shocking. This is Tiger moves the needle. I mean, this is what happens. He's potentially like one of the most popular sports figures of the last 30 years. So we're not shocked. I mean, my answer to Tiger Woods this week is there's really no good way to bet Tiger Woods. I don't even think the missed cut bet is good. Tiger will find a way to grind his way around this course. Augusta, you have to know how to play it. No one knows how to play Augusta better than Tiger Woods. He basically managed his way to a win in 2019. So I think there's way better missed cut bets, like your guy Billy Horschel at plus 225 than Tiger Woods. But at the same time, I'm not betting him to win at plus 3,500. So Reed's right. The best way to approach Tiger is just sit back and watch. There's better bets on the board than betting Tiger this week.
Okay, Reed. Producer Tom has slacked me and says, we do have 2 minutes left in the show. And he says, maybe if you didn't complain for 2 minutes, we would have had more time to talk golf.
No, but the complaining was I'm starting to move the needle of where we put the Masters in which block on the sweat. And everybody cares. No one cares about 100,000 games for the MLB going to B block. Let's be honest. It's opening day. That's great. Let's be honest. This is Augusta National. People.
Okay.
Come on.
All right. So if people are going to be betting him, Reed, because he's the biggest story right now, and you could get a lot of casual bettors, a lot of people who maybe just casual fans tuning in, looking to put a couple bucks down. You need to be paying attention to that news tomorrow after he plays those 9 holes.
Yes and no. I mean, because if you're paying attention to news, it's more buy the rumor, sell the news. That's what you're supposed to be doing. If you're watching him and everything, it's a practice round. It's not going to tell us much. It's going to tell us that, okay, yes, I'm playing. And that's what we thought, a month ago or even a few weeks ago when everyone was tracking his jet coming up to Augusta. So this is not any news. I mean, I think Jeff has alluded to it on Twitter and a lot of people have. It's don't be surprised. Everyone's going to be surprised when he says he's playing by what he's doing. No one's going to be surprised. And tomorrow's not if he goes 8 under tomorrow on 9 holes, I'm still not going to bet him because it's not a positive EV bet. It's great. It's great for talking heads like us, and we'll talk about it on Wednesday, but it's just not a good bet.
I mean, Jeff, we only have a few seconds left in the show. Those galleries yesterday were insane. The man doesn't move the needle. He is the needle.
Yeah, no, I mean, Tiger has ripple effects for this event. I mean, whoever's playing with Tiger and a lot of speculation that's going to be Justin Thomas because Justin Thomas is obviously one of his closer friends. I mean, like, does it have like after effects on him because he's got to deal with these insane crowds and just got to deal with the aura of Tiger Woods. So that's something to watch for too. That's honestly what I'm more interested in than necessarily looking for a way to bet Tiger Woods because there's just so many variables. Like when we're betting golf, we want to try and get those sure things down, have more information. We have no information coming in on what Tiger Woods is really going to do here. We're just going off history and the fact that he's just been, he's the best player of all time, but coming off a 13-month layoff. So going to be really cool to watch. But, in that range, again, you got guys like Daniel Berger.
Yeah.
Big guys at bigger odds. Adam Scott. The list goes on. Probably with better chances to win.
Okay, well, you and me and Reed, we'll talk a lot more about this tomorrow here on the show on The Sweat. Tom says it will be the last block in the show. I hope we have multiple blocks talking Masters because there
Reed's
are.
Just got us kicked off the show now.
Because he may have.
Grow up.
We have multiple Millie makers. I agree. We will produce tomorrow's show. We will lead the show. All right, we got to go, and we're also all three of us will have the slate. Tomorrow at 5 o'clock. And I brought up the cut show to producer Tom. Shut me down on that too. Anyway, we have to go. I have to go. I'll see you guys later.
I got a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah, a lot of stuff.
Great
lot
haircut.
Of stuff. Hey,
Great
thanks.
Haircut, by the way.
Thanks, dude.